Let me take you back to last October. At the time, I thought the worst part of my life was juggling bills and working overtime. I had no idea my own sister was about to unleash the kind of cruelty that would scar my daughter and tear open decades of buried resentment between us. But maybe I should start at the beginning. The golden child and the forgotten one. My sister's name is Vanessa. She's 37, 2 years older than me, and from the moment we were kids, she was the golden child. Straight-A student, prom queen, full-ride scholarship to a fancy university, married her high school sweetheart, 2 picture-perfect kids, a big house, and a shiny SUV in the driveway. And me? My name's Lena. I was the kid who scraped by. Community college instead of university. Retail jobs and waitressing instead of internships. I didn't marry until later, and when I did, it didn't last. My proudest accomplishment, the thing I live and breathe for, is my daughter, Mia. Vanessa always made sure to remind me of the difference between us. Every family dinner turned into a stage where she bragged about her husband's promotions, her kids' straight A's, their piano recitals, their trophies. And then, like clockwork, she'd turn her attention to me. Still renting that little place? Maybe you should take some classes, Lena, broaden your horizons. Oh, Mia's school doesn't have gifted programs? That's too bad. She always delivered her jabs with a sweet smile, the kind that made everyone else think she was being helpful. But I knew better. I had lived under her shadow my whole life. A dream costume. Halloween has always been special to Mia. She's 8 now, at that magical age where she still believes in fairies and princesses, but also loves to create. When she told me she wanted to be a celestial fairy princess, she didn't mean grabbing a costume off the rack. She wanted us to build it together. And so we did. We spent weeks sewing a lavender gown covered in sequins that glittered like starlight. We crafted delicate silver wings out of wire and shimmery fabric, adding tiny LED lights so they would glow in the dark. For the crown, we wove real dried flowers and small crystal beads into a headpiece that looked like it belonged in a fairy kingdom. Every evening after dinner, Mia would put on her half-finished costume and twirl around the living room. "Do I look magical, Mommy?" she'd ask, her eyes sparkling brighter than the sequins on her dress. And I would nod, trying not to cry, because in that moment, she wasn't just a little girl in a costume. She was proof that love and effort could create something beautiful, even when life felt heavy and unfair. Vanessa's demand. The day before Halloween, my phone rang. It was Vanessa. She rarely calls unless she wants something, so my stomach tightened before I even answered. "Hey, Lena," she said casually. "We have a little problem." Her daughter, Chloe, who's 9, had spilled hot cocoa all over her store-bought princess dress. Vanessa said there was no way to fix it in time. Then came the real reason for the call. So, I was thinking Mia could share her costume with Chloe. I nearly dropped the phone. "Excuse me? Mia has been working on that costume for months. It's hers." Vanessa laughed like I was being ridiculous. "Come on, Lena. It's just a costume. They could take turns, or Mia could let Chloe wear it since she's older and more responsible. Don't you want your niece to have a good Halloween too?" I felt heat rising in my chest. "No, Vanessa. Absolutely not. Mia made that costume with me. She deserves to wear it." Her voice turned sharp. "You're being selfish. Maybe if you weren't so jealous of me all the time, you'd understand what real generosity looks like. You're raising Mia to be spoiled." And with that, she hung up. Halloween day. I should have known that wasn't the end. Vanessa never takes no for an answer, especially not from me. On Halloween afternoon, Mia was upstairs getting dressed, carefully adjusting her crown in the mirror. I was downstairs preparing her candy bucket when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and there stood Vanessa, with Chloe beside her. My gut twisted. Without waiting for permission, Vanessa pushed past me and marched straight toward the stairs. "Where's Mia?" she demanded. By the time I caught up to her, Vanessa was in Mia's room. Mia turned around, her face glowing with joy. "Aunt Vanessa, look at my costume. Don't I look like a real fairy princess?" And she did. The lights on her crown twinkled, her wings shimmered, and her little face was pure happiness. But Vanessa's eyes turned cold. Actually, Mia, I think Chloe should wear that costume tonight. She'll take better care of it. Mia's smile faltered. But Aunt Vanessa, Mommy, and I made this together. It's mine. Sometimes we have to share, Vanessa snapped. Chloe needs it more. I stepped forward. Vanessa, stop. We already talked about this. Mia is wearing her costume. And that's when everything spiraled out of control. The sabotage. Vanessa lunged at Mia, grabbing her shoulders and tugging at the dress. Mia screamed, clutching the fabric.
No.
Stop. Vanessa, let her go. I shouted, pulling my daughter back. But Vanessa was relentless. She ripped the delicate wings right off Mia's back. The wire frame snapped with a sickening crack, fabric tearing in shreds. Mia sobbed, clutching her ruined costume. Then, with a sneer, Vanessa snatched the flower crown off her head and crushed it beneath her heel. The tiny LED lights popped and fizzed out, sparks flickering like dying stars. Mia collapsed onto the floor, sobbing.
Why?
Why would you do that? But Vanessa wasn't done. She stormed downstairs to my garage where I keep my craft supplies. I heard banging, then the clatter of cans. Before I could stop her, she came back upstairs, carrying a gallon of red paint. My heart sank. And then, with the coldest expression I've ever seen on her face, Vanessa tipped the can and poured it over Mia's head. The paint cascaded down her hair, her dress, her face. The shimmering fabric turned into a dripping red mess. My little girl stood frozen in shock, red paint pooling at her feet. There, Vanessa said smugly. Now no one can wear it. Even Chloe gasped, covering her mouth in horror.
Mom.
That's not fair. But Vanessa just grabbed her daughter's hand and headed for the door. Maybe next time you'll learn not to be so selfish. And with that, she left. I stood there trembling, holding my sobbing, paint-covered daughter in my arms. The costume we had poured our hearts into was destroyed. But as I wiped Mia's tears and whispered promises into her hair, a different kind of fire lit inside me. Because Vanessa had no idea that I had been preparing for something like this all along. And what came next? Well, let's just say her perfect little world was about to unravel piece by piece. That night, after cleaning Mia up and tucking her into bed, I sat in the dark living room, shaking with anger. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her little body trembling under the weight of that red paint, her ruined costume dripping onto the floor. Vanessa had crossed a line. She had humiliated my daughter, destroyed something we built together, and left without a shred of remorse. For years, I had let her put me down, let her brag, let her win. But this time I was done being silent. And the truth? I had been preparing for this moment. The evidence. See, growing up with Vanessa taught me one important lesson: never trust her. Over the years, I had collected little pieces of evidence. Snide remarks she made at family dinners, texts where she mocked me, voicemails dripping with her fake sweetness that turned into insults when she thought no one was listening. I never planned to use them. Not really. But after Halloween night, I added one more piece to my collection, a video. Chloe had dropped her phone on the floor in the chaos, and I picked it up later, planning to return it. When I checked it for a passcode, I found something shocking. The camera had been rolling. The whole scene, Vanessa ripping Mia's wings, crushing her crown, pouring paint over her, was recorded in crystal clear detail. Her cold words, my daughter's sobs, even Chloe's horrified reaction. Everything was right there on video. And in that moment, I knew exactly what to do. The upload. The next morning, I posted the video online. I didn't add commentary, didn't even show my face. Just the raw footage with the caption. This is what jealousy looks like. This is what a mother did to her own niece on Halloween night. At first, I thought maybe a few friends or family members would see it. But by noon, it had thousands of views. By evening, tens of thousands. By the next day, it was viral. Comment sections exploded. People were outraged. How could anyone do this to a child? That poor little girl. This woman should be ashamed of herself. Screenshots spread across Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Local community groups picked it up. Then news outlets. Within a week, Vanessa's perfect image was shattered. Cracks in her perfect life. Vanessa's downfall came swiftly and brutally. Her husband, Daniel, who always seemed to idolize her, was furious when he saw the video. He called me late one night, voice heavy with guilt. I knew she could be cruel, Lena, but I didn't know she was capable of that. I'm so sorry for what she did to Mia. A month later, he filed for divorce. Her job at the real estate firm?
Gone.
Who wants to buy a dream home from the woman who humiliated her own niece? Clients dropped her left and right, and her boss had no choice but to let her go. At school, Chloe faced whispers and stares. Kids asked, "Is your mom the crazy paint lady?" Teachers pitied her. And though none of this was Chloe's fault, Vanessa's choices had cast a long shadow over her daughter's life too. Our parents, who always favored Vanessa, couldn't ignore it anymore. For once, they looked at me not with disappointment, but with quiet shame at the daughter they had defended for so long. Mia's healing. The hardest part was helping Mia heal. For weeks, she woke up crying from nightmares, remembering the paint dripping down her face. I reassured her again and again. You did nothing wrong. You are brave. You are magical. To rebuild her confidence, we started a new project together. This time, it wasn't just a costume. We built an entire fairy castle in her room, paper lanterns for stars, glow-in-the-dark murals, shelves of handmade crowns and wings. Every night, she would sit in her fairy kingdom and read stories, and little by little, the fear faded from her eyes. Vanessa's silence. And Vanessa? She tried to fight back at first. She called me, screaming, threatening lawsuits, claiming I had ruined her life. But the truth was simple. She ruined it herself. I told her one thing before hanging up on her for good. You poured paint on an 8-year-old, Vanessa. I just showed the world who you really are. She never called again. The lesson. It's been almost a year since that Halloween. Life isn't perfect. I still struggle sometimes, and Mia still has moments where the memory stings, but we are stronger. And Vanessa? She's a ghost. No husband, no job, barely any friends. People still recognize her sometimes, whispering behind her back. She wanted to be remembered as the perfect sister, the perfect wife, the perfect mom. Instead, she'll always be remembered as the woman who destroyed a child's dream costume out of spite. And maybe that's the real revenge. Not the video, not the fallout, not the chaos. But the simple fact that the mask she wore for decades finally slipped, and the world saw the truth. Because in the end, the truth is always the most powerful weapon.